Welcome to season 2, episode 3 of the MainCast. My name is Pastor Sonia, and today we have Pastor Kaimana.
Hello.
And we also have Pastor Jake.
Yo.
We are excited.
Do I have to lean in?
I don't know. You could have moved your mic a little bit more.
A little bit.
You could have moved it closer to
Sorry,
you.
Mingo.
Hopefully that doesn't ruin sound. We have a whole system going on over here behind the camera. Give a shout out to Andre and Mingo for making the MainCast happen. If you are a MainCast fan, thank them. Don't thank us.
True.
Here we go. Let's do some icebreakers right now. I want you to complete this sentence that I'm about to share with you guys. I wish everyone could. Okay, hold on, pause. Do not say like love Jesus, because that's what I want to say.
Okay, yes.
So that's what I really wrote down, and I really couldn't think of anything close to that. I was like, and I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to answer that way. So no Jesus Christian answers.
Has not entered yet.
Okay, yeah. So no, because that just kind of ruins. I don't know.
You have to rethink then.
Because you have to say Jesus.
Well, right.
I was gonna say
if that wasn't our
wish
answer, we
everyone
probably
could give
shouldn't.
Jesus a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I said everyone love him no matter what.
Don't even give him it. Just take the chance.
Just do it.
I
Step
would.
further.
I don't know. I'm not saved, I guess, because my first thing was like, I wish everyone could be on time.
Oh.
So that's not even has anything to do with Jesus. I mean, I think it does because I feel like it's godly to be on time. But then I honestly don't know if I like either be on time or text back. Like, I want everyone to do both of those. But I don't know which one hurts me more, when people are late or when they don't text me back.
We need to do like a series called like Don't Text Back or Don't Text Me Back or something about people who don't text back just for something. I feel like maybe that's what God feels every time he calls us and we don't listen to him.
I feel like he does. So I really am closer to God now.
I think texting back, that'd be more.
Because it's like just so, it's like, please, I know you saw it.
Especially when they have the red thing.
That is just disrespectful. Yeah.
Like,
I remember like red receipts. It used to be like you didn't want them because you didn't want people to know you read their thing, and now it's like, oh, I want you to know I read it, and I didn't reply. It's just like now, like a punch in the face, and it's always like I'm like I don't like. No, you remember when we used to text like, "Hey, what's up?" and then it'd be like NMU, like not much. Like you would talk like no one does that anymore. So usually when I text someone, I'm like, "Hey,
it means something.
I need to know this information now, so I can do this, whatever." And then it's just like red. Like,
yeah.
My big thing, it's a little bit Jesus-y, but not really. But I wish everyone, I really feel this though, could go on a missions trip. I genuinely feel that. Two-part. Number one, I think traveling is the greatest thing, one of the greatest gifts that we have in this world, especially as Americans. We actually can experience like leisure time. So I think traveling is just great, different cultures, different people. But then when you put like Jesus into it, it's very like existential. Like you experience it and you're like, wow, my life is different. Or I understand this now. I appreciate what I have. I need to be better. So I think a mission trip is very sobering. And I think even if you don't like God, you go on it and it's just very like, whoa. Kind of like, kind of reshapes your thinking.
I feel like there's no one I know who's been on one who was like, it was all right.
Or
like, you know what I mean? Or they hated it. Like,
they
were like, oh my gosh, and it doesn't matter like in country, out of country. Like, it's just that, it's like super powerful. Like Gio, like his first one, he was like, oh my gosh, like this whole new like relationship with God or whatever. Now he's going to New York, in the summer. And it's just like, it's big.
That's a good one. What was the question? I wish everyone could love Jesus. I would say I wish everyone could just be more selfless and watch how it works better. I feel like everybody, like me included, I'm not out of this equation, but just always thinking about how can I fulfill my needs, but we don't realize if you help other people, like it's actually a little bit more satisfying even than helping yourself. So
and if we all, the thing is like if we all did it, we would all have the same result.
Exactly.
We would all be helped. Like it's, but then it's just like it's like the trust fall. Like it's like I'll do it if you do it. I'm not gonna be the first one to be selfless. You know.
Okay. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
First of all, that sounds like a song lyric or something.
I'm sure it is.
I'm
sure it's John Mayer.
John
or
the
Tay.
last time I did something for the first time, I tried sushi recently.
How was it?
Did you like it?
There's no way you liked it.
I loved it at first.
No way.
Did you get freaked out?
And then I had a second one. I was like, this is just not very good. I feel like I can't do like a whole meal of sushi.
Oh, okay.
Like I
but
could have it as like
kind
a side.
of sushi though? Like
I had like a spicy tuna roll or something like that. And I don't really like fish, so I didn't expect to like it, but it was...
I feel like if you don't like fish, there's no way you can like sushi.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but I guess I don't really like sushi, but I could eat one or two.
At least you tried it, though.
Yeah, I couldn't eat a whole roll.
More overpowering is the seaweed.
Really?
Then like that's more overpowering. No, I've tried it.
It has
but it's
flavor?
then the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a flavor to it. So like that's what I feel like I could almost deal with the fish more than I can deal with that. Like I just won't go away because I was like, oh, if I would just put chicken in here, I'm like, no.
I think it's just because like I'm Asian and Hawaiian or whatever. Like we've been eating sushi since I was a kid, so I'm like delicious. Yeah. Like I don't know,
Sydney
like mom's meatloaf. Like I'm like.
Do you like poke bowls?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had one in forever because I've been pregnant like consistently for 2 years. So like went to Hawaii and I couldn't have any, which that's the best poke they have is in Hawaii. But I do like them. Yeah.
I feel like you like everything though, so it's rare to find anything she doesn't like.
Yeah, I thought of something I didn't like the other day, and then I still ate it. But like, oh yeah, I don't like things that should be made in the oven, like pizza rolls or chicken nuggets. I can't eat them out of the microwave. When I say can't, I mean I don't like it. But Gio will just do it like it's soggy.
Yeah.
Versus like crispy and delicious. But Gio will just flat out put those things in the microwave, and I'm like, this is disgusting. And of course, I will still eat it.
Right.
But I'm upset about it. Yeah.
So that's I won't eat it.
One thing, right, that I'm like, I won't eat it.
I won't eat 10. I'll eat 9. Gotcha.
I'm like, I actually paid for this food from my bank account, so I'm gonna eat it.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Last time. Well, I honestly don't really like to do new things. So
I feel like I thought of so many for you.
Well,
give birth.
Okay, yeah. So I gave birth without an epidural, like 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's.
So I don't think I ever would. I don't know if I'll do it again, but I didn't think I would do it to begin with. So that was the first, probably a last.
I really couldn't think of what was the last time you did something for the first time, which I guess that's a bad answer, but I don't know. I've probably done a lot of crazy.
You've done a lot of stuff.
So then like I've swam with dolphins. And I've gone on boats and seen killer whales, and I've gone parasailing, and I've, whitewater rafted. I've done zip lining.
For the first time when you went to Europe?
This past time? No.
You didn't climb the thing?
Climb what thing?
I
did climb the tower. I did climb the O2. I've jumped off things, glided off things.
Yeah.
I've just done it. I've been to Israel. Like I've gone in the Jesus' tomb. I've gone in Golgotha. I've been there in the pool of Siloam, the pool of Bethesda. I've touched the rock that Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. I've been in the Garden of Gethsemane.
So you see, you just consistently do new things.
So I know, but it's like I'm like, oh.
But did you ever? I don't think you've ever preached the same sermon like you did in the last sermon of the year.
Oh, I've never done that. Yes, that's a good thing.
Good.
So you answer mine. I'll answer yours about the birth. Yes, I've never redone a sermon verbatim. I almost wore the same outfit too. Like I found it and I was like, I'm going to wear the exact same outfit. And I preached it because I felt like no one listened to me the first time. So the first sermon, the exact same sermon of the thing. So it was funny. People were like, yeah, this is the best sermon ever. I was like, no,
I already did it.
I
went to one day when I preached at FCA Chapel, like wear my uniform.
Oh,
from high school, which it does not fit right now, but yeah, I think it'd be hilarious.
And the little
I think I kept one pair of pants and one shirt, like as memento. So I always was like, I just want to like preach in that one day. So it's like it freaks people out. Which I guess you'd see my knees, so I don't know if I wouldn't be allowed to because I work here, but I have it. Yeah, I have it in the queue.
I want you to do that tomorrow. I know,
right? Now. But not even mention it, like not even on stage. Like I don't even say anything about it. Like I just do it and it's done.
Oh, it'll be a new trend. Okay. What's the worst grade you've ever gotten?
I definitely know this right away. It was chemistry class in high school. I got a D-.
Oh.
And I've never gotten anything close to that.
But is it like on a test, on a progress report, on a report card, as a final grade?
As a final grade.
Okay, that's really bad.
D-.
Wow.
That's
really bad.
And I'm used to like just A's and B's, sometimes a C. And the sad thing is I tried really hard in that class. Like I showed up early every
Chemistry
day.
is hard.
Oh my gosh.
Science and
it just
math
didn't make
together.
Sense
yeah.
to me.
I think if you don't have a really
Covalent
good teacher to explain it, it's
Yeah.
I took chemistry in 10th grade. I had Mr. Brown in Winter Park, and he was awesome. He totally looked like a
teacher.
Like a, close your eyes, think of a science teacher, like the glasses, the almost bald, the nose being big, and he was awesome. I loved it.
Chemistry class for me, I think my teacher was like sick all year. So we had subs all year. So we literally called it feasting time. So we would bring all of our snacks and we would just eat. We were just eating the class. I don't know we didn't learn anything. Learned. Yeah, we didn't learn all year. But we would like Tostitos and we would bring all these things. We'd all share our food. And that's what I remember about chemistry.
I've never had a scholastic experience like that. There's like one time there was an issue with one teacher. I told my mom, she took me out of the class, and that was it. Mrs. White, Algebra 2.
Yeah,
I was like, this is not happening.
So, but that's not the only time that's happened in my high school career.
It's never been easy for me. I don't know why.
I don't like science either. I could never be a doctor. I don't get it.
Never could be a doctor.
Things go together.
We took you had to take one science class at SEU just to graduate, and I did life science at first
because it sounded easy.
Yeah, people told me it was going to be the easiest out of all the science classes.
Right.
And then I figured out you had to like draw blood and like all these things, and I'm so squeamish. What you hate the most? Oh my! I dropped the day that I heard that. I was like, I'm not taking this science class. I'm gonna learn about rocks instead.
Rocks. So. I did that too. I tried to pick the easiest science.
Oh yeah.
To graduate.
I think it's I mean, I took the easiest science like when caught like biology, but that was before they made the new maths.
Okay. Yeah.
And the new like life math and like math blah 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 or prep math 1, prep math 2.
Right. Yeah. I think the worst. I mean, I'm sure I've gotten like bad grades, like single grades. And so this is going to sound like it's not the worst grade I've ever gotten, but they were both at Valencia, so that's why I was mad. But I got 2 Bs in like my whole college career, which just whatever. It's fine. Like that's pretty good. But like I could have been like the highest level of honors and I was the second highest. So that really bugged me because it was Valencia. But I really feel like it was my fault because the 1 B I got was in comp 2, no, a writing class, some kind of writing class. But then it's because the professor didn't grade anything till the end. So like I did all my discussion posts wrong, but he didn't grade them till the end of the semester. So I had literally no idea. So then I like did horrible on that part of my grade. So I got a B, but I had an A+ up until he graded all of those. So I was like, this is your fault, Mr. Love. That was his name. And then I got a B in economics. And I think it's because it was really hard, but shout out, I also took that class with Izzy and Jessica. And they got me in trouble. We had to get reseated like we were in high school because they would talk to me. We did group projects. None of us got to be in a group together because they are like disrespectful students and they were getting me in trouble. And I'm not used to that. So I feel like I got a B also because they were my distractions.
Well, I mean, you got a B and they both got kicked out of school. So like they're fine now. They graduated at school, but there was a season.
They were bad seeds.
Really?
So I believe the B because they were really seeds. They went like they were like out of school.
And I was in high school. I was a senior and they were out of high school. But we're like let's take these classes together. I shouldn't have.
I think the worst grade I got, this wasn't a final grade, was my first test in college. I graduated high school. I went straight to UCF. There's no such thing as like go to community college and do blah, blah. Like no, you just go to college and you go to UCF. Like that's just what I was taught. That's just what I do. So it was my first test, but also too, if you ever go to any of this orientation stuff, they tell you, if you get A's and B's in college, you're going to get C's and in high school, you're going to get C's and D's in college. You're not going to fail. You're going to flunk out. 50% of minorities, they flunk out their first semester. They kept speaking all this death to me and I believe them. Like I'm not like, I will prove you wrong. So, like, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm going to fail. Okay. Like I don't know. I don't understand the show. Like I'll write scripts later, but this is real life. So my first test that I took in algebra, and I'm very good at math. I got you went to a lab and then you had the class. So my lab teacher was a foreign exchange student from China that didn't speak English. Her name was Duck Young Cha. Love her. And Duck Young Cha would teach us, but I didn't understand anything she was saying. Anyways, I got my first test back and I got a 54%. So I cried just there and I knew it. I was like, they were right. I am going to flunk out of life. Because math is my jam. Like this is great. I went to her to try to explain it to me. I was crying. I was freaking her out because I was crying because she was like a TA, you know? And then she was looking at my stuff and it like it looked like I had done all my work right, but I had done little dumb mistakes because I didn't proofread my stuff. So by the time I was done crying, she raised my grade to a 67%. So at least I had, because I was like, it was the same work. I just didn't put the
58 is
positive
F,
sign.
right?
Yeah. So then at that point on, I was like, oh, so then I had 4 more tests, whatever. I ended up getting 99% in the class. So it turned out great.
Yeah.
But that moment, I really thought I was going to die. I was like, this is it. I was like, they were right. I'm never going to do good better. And, my life is ruined.
I would be like hot. Like I would start getting hot and like I can imagine that. But I also like, you didn't have rate my professor.
No.
When you were, you know what I mean? Like I would go on rate my professor and find all the professors that were good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
I don't even know if does that still exist? Well, you also went to a smaller school. UCF is huge.
SEU,
yeah.
You just ask
You have
people.
to but I'm saying you still have to grade them. They just don't have like a cool website.
There's not that many
options.
Yeah. And I would like go on super early, registration day, like to get the best professors.
I was like, man, I wonder where Duck Young Cha is now.
Probably like owns a company.
Probably. I don't know. I'm sure, whatever, but she was stressed me out. Bendito. I freaked her out more than she freaked me out, but
Did you guys think that college was easier or harder than high school? I thought it was easier. I mean, know why.
My major was business, so
okay. Yeah, I guess it depends.
There's a difference when people take like other majors.
Yeah.
But I loved my college experience. That was my favorite experience. I had way more fun in college, and I just liked it, just the flow of it. But I had to take calculus and stuff. So that's definitely harder than.
I don't know if I thought either one was super hard, but I took I did college alongside doing the internship before we were an SU campus, so that was hard. Like I had to take all the worst classes, Monday classes, 7 a.m. classes, Friday classes, like that. So that to me wasn't fun. And then finding campus on UC, finding parking on UCF campus was really stressful. So
that was the hardest part is finding parking.
And then I can't be late. Like I literally cannot be late or I feel like I'm going to die. So I would have to leave super early. I'd be like, oh God, I can't do it. Whatever. And I did think college wasn't as scary as they tell you in high school. Cause I'm again, I'm like, my professor didn't even work all semester.
Yeah.
He just said, do the work and I'll grade it at the end. It's not that.
They were way more understanding and just way more chill. And
which is not what they tell you in high school.
Yeah. No.
They're they're going to be way more strict.
Yeah.
Only some teachers.
But I really liked my college experience. I felt like my professors were solid. It was only my TA, Duck Young Cha.
I don't I really don't like school. I did good in it, but it's so stressful to me. Getting grades and stuff. I'm I
thank God every day I don't have to study for a test.
Yeah.
That's
I used to, when I was homeschooled, I used to do I had to do the math things or they would my mom would set the timer and it's the math sheet, 5 was whatever. And I would cry. I wouldn't even make it through the thing. I'd start crying thinking that I wasn't going to finish it. So I get so stressed out about that stuff.
The times, I remember that.
Yeah. Being timed, I would, and I probably could do it. I think we're all actually good at math at this table. I was good at math. But it was the idea that I might fail at it. I was just I would cry and I'd be like, stop the timer. I can't do it.
That's funny.
So that was hard. Elementary school.
Here we go. So we are on episode 3 and we are in our fast right now. One of the things we're doing, we're going through the book of Romans. So that's what this podcast is about. MainCast is about. We're also memorizing some scriptures. How are you guys doing on your memorization of scriptures?
I think good. We're doing this is third day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's 10 of them, so we can slow down however you want. Whatever. Some of them are super easy. Psalm 23:1, the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing, I shall not want. That was easy. Now I am stuck on Joshua 1:8. I cannot memorize this darn thing.
But what's funny is it's about keeping the book of the law on your lips.
I know,
so it's ironic.
Well, right. I can't. So I have to, but I'm just keep the book of the law on my lips. Something. Meditate on it day and night. That third part I can't remember, so I'll be prosperous and successful. I was
that's all you need. I'm just kidding.
You may be careful. So you may be careful to do everything written in it, and I'm how do I not know that that's what I'm supposed to do? So Joshua 1:8, I'm struggling, but I'm just
make up songs because we had Bible verses
pretty easy, right?
At FCA, and we would make up songs or raps to our whole class would be
helps.
Yeah, meditate on it day and night. We would all just they were terrible, but they worked.
I've tried everything, and then now I'm just mad on it. So I just always keep it, I keep it in my purse, or I have it this on my desk. So when I have a second, I'll just kind of look at it, because that just kind of helps me to memorize all this stuff.
The book is cool though.
I know.
Yeah.
Some of them I already know, so like that'll kind of help me, even if
Like,
I'm just the whole time
check
on
it
Joshua
off.
1:8.
Yeah.
I was like, no, yeah. Romans 8:28, got it.
Heyo.
But Joshua 1:8 is stressing me out. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try really, really hard. And if you haven't memorized, find me and recite it to me and make me feel dumb. It'll be good. Here we go. Episode 3. We're gonna go through Romans 8:28.
Yes.
One of the greatest scriptures ever in the whole wide world. So here we go. Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. There's obviously several definitions. No, there's several versions of it. This was the version I like the best. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. What is your first thought when you read this verse?
I think the first thing I think about is this verse specifically. It's like you can plug it into your life, whatever season you're in, like whatever type of person that you're in. Like this verse always applies to you because it says, in all things. So for like whoever's listening, whatever your thing is, like God can turn it around and he can use that thing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind, how applicable and how like real this verse is no matter where I'm at.
Yeah. I think like the first time I read through this, probably during H2O or something, my first thought was like, oh wow, everything's gonna be awesome as a Christian. Nothing's gonna be bad. It's gonna be so easy. When I was in high school, I'm pretty sure I thought that. And then now my first thought is just like, God loves me and he's in control. And like, as long as both of those are true, then I'm okay. Like he loves me and he's in control. So anything that happens, those things are still true. So I can rock with that in whatever season if as long as I know he loves me and he's in control.
Man. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit personal today in this podcast. So we're going to be breaking down personal stories in our life and asking different questions throughout our story. So as we share our story, the more we talk, we'll explain more and more of our story as the conversation moves forward. So, okay, either one of you, whichever one wants to go first, share a time when it was hard for you to see God working your situation out for good.
I would say like this is something I thought would just be a one-time occurrence. Like in 11th grade, it happened. It was like the biggest time I can remember, but it kind of is just a reoccurring season, I think, in every Christian's life. But like kind of the constant stream of people who were running the race with you who stop. Like that, for me, can be really hard to see how that can work out for my good. Because, when people walk away from God, like we're concerned about them. We pray for them. We're like, because obviously they just change their trajectory to like go to hell. And, if they don't make a decision to come back to him. So like, I get that, but sometimes we don't talk about how it affects the people who are still running the race. Like first of all, anytime someone leaves a family, like the family feels it.
Yeah.
And then second of all, specifically, like when you're running with someone and they stop, it's hard because then you're like, oh, who am I running? I'm running alone. That's crazy, So I would say like that's a constant thing that I have to work through every time someone walks away from God or even just like quits full-time ministry. I'm just like, I always feel it like deep. It doesn't ever get like, oh, well, this always happens. I'm just always like, oh, why? And, I know that God's sovereign and stuff, but it just feels, I'm like, how can this be for my good? Am I selfish for thinking that? But the word says everything works together for those who love him, and I love him. So that can be hard to work through.
Yeah. I think a season where it was difficult to see God working things for my good was right after college. I feel like kind of looking back as I was reading this question, like every season of my life until right after college, like I knew like what my purpose was in that season. Like, when I was in high school, it was like, okay, I'm just going to work hard in school, basketball, and serve my youth group. And I was like, that's where I'm at. In college, like I had a drive, like a purpose of, studying to become a youth minister. And then college, at the end of college, I did an internship in Miami, and it was awesome. And it was like kind of like the high point of like, okay, I really feel like I wasn't just making this up myself, that God's called me to do ministry full time. Like it was kind of like, oh, I could really see myself doing this. And then it was also just a season where everything was happening. I had just bought a ring, and I was going to propose. Yeah, I bought a ring in Miami, and I was going to propose.
From the guy?
Yes.
The one guy everyone goes to?
Guy.
Yes.
What's his, do you know his name?
His name's Danny.
Oh, my
God. Is that his real name?
Danny's the Orlando guy.
No, that's
Frank.
Yeah. Frank, there we go. There's a guy.
Shout out to
if you don't know,
the ring
Frank.
supplier of Faith
there
Assembly.
for years, for decades, there's this guy that people buy rings from, and it's crazy because
ghetto shop.
Yes, but you go, every single person that buys a ring for a certain amount, they go and they appraise it, they go insure it, and
it's worth way
more.
Yeah.
It's like, and everyone we know has been the guy.
Frank hooked me
Probably
up.
blood diamonds.
I got it. Honestly, it looks like, I don't know. He's definitely from like New York too. And
we need to get him to sponsor us. Provider of diamonds.
He really has already.
I mean, yes.
He's the OG.
He has made so many marriages work. Thanks, Frank.
He really has.
Frank.
Anyways,
if you see a ring at MainStream, it's probably from Frank.
From Frank.
Yes.
Is this a Frank ring?
It is a Frank ring.
If it's really small and like weird, it's not Frank.
No.
But if it's really big, just
Frank
go Frank.
Won't do it.
Yep.
He'll be like, yes.
I promise you.
I went and saw Frank. Got the ring, and Sydney was just kind of transitioning into being at SEU full time, and I knew the call and the purpose she had on her life, and it was just, that was exactly where she was supposed to be. So I wanted to just champion her, and I was like turning down like little opportunities that maybe my professors had given me to youth pastor in Texas or Phoenix or elsewhere, because I was like, no, I want to be here because I feel like Sydney's called to be here, and and I felt like I was supposed to be in Florida too, but then just nothing was kind of working out. There was no real opportunity in Florida for me, like ministry wise at that time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna live in Lakeland and work at T-Mobile. So I worked at T-Mobile, and in the meantime, I was trying to like set myself up for like jobs or positions that were almost what God called me to do. Like I was applying to jobs at SEU that were like, it's at a Christian school. It's like involved with ministry, but like it wasn't specifically like God called me to be a middle school pastor.
Yeah.
And I was in Lakeland and I wanted to serve at MainStream. But I was like, it's gonna be really hard to go there during the week with my work schedule. So I was like, Sydney, is there anything on Sundays like where I can serve like youth? And she's like, yeah, Rapids is Sunday morning. I'd never even heard of it. And I knew Pastor Mike, so I asked him to serve in middle school ministry. And it was like a weird season where I was like just traveling back and forth. And I was like, I was content with serving at MainStream, but I was like, is this like how it's going to be forever? Like, am I just going to serve the church and work at T-Mobile for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And I was like, if that's what you want me to do, that's fine. But it was just a season where I was trying to like make my own platform in every other area. And I kept getting denied with jobs, rejected. And then God kind of reminded me of a verse. I'll share it later. I don't want to skip ahead.
Don't be positive right
questions.
now.
Yeah.
Don't be positive.
But that's where I was. I was trying to make my own purpose when God had already told me.
Right.
And I wasn't being patient. So
I mean, it's funny though, because like our church especially like has the lowest turnover rates ever. So there would be no reason you would think there would be an opportunity here.
Yeah.
I know.
At all.
At
like
all.
there would be zero, there's like no like no one quits here. So
it
like,
wasn't even like a thought in my mind. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to serve here so that I can, that's what was like, okay, then what's the end goal here? Like, God, if you've called me to serve here, then this is just always going to be, I'm just going to serve here forever.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Situation when it was hard for me to see God turning around for my good was probably the year that my older sister, she passed away in a car accident. And then 7 months later, my brother passed away in a car accident. Toughest time. And it wasn't necessarily, it was, at this point, I can analyze it so much from this perspective. It wasn't like I never got angry at God. I was just a little bit numb. I'll share about that like in a second, but it was hard to see the good in it only because like It was obviously sad and it was rough and it was hard to see what my next step was, but my whole life was changed. And, you know, my parents stopped celebrating Christmas because my mom could not put up a Christmas tree. My mom said, no more Mother's Day. We're just not doing that because I'm no longer a mother. So like, you know, here I am in college. Laura's just starting college. And we went from a family of 6+ with all my aunts and uncles and cousins to just Laura and I. Yeah. So it was very, very, during this, you go through situations that everyone reacts differently. Everyone mourns differently. Yeah. Some people they like to be by themselves. Some people like to be around a lot of people. Some people, you know, need to exercise more. Some people this, different things. So one of my big reactions was like, okay, well, you're not promised tomorrow, so I'm going to suck the good out of today. Yeah. So I chose to become very, very like speaking life, playing the glad game, being whatever. That's how I coped. So for all the celebrations in my life to be canceled, it was very hard on me because I'm like, there's nothing to celebrate. So that's why it was so hard to see the good, not because God wasn't good, but just because I was like, I'm destined to live a really sad life.
Yeah. Is that when you started listening to Joel Osteen?
No,
or here you already had been listening.
I listened to him probably when when he becoming super like famous, and everyone would talk about him, and I was like, let me hear this guy. And I'm like, I love him
on purpose.
That's when I really started working out because one of my professors at SEU said, I took a Myers-Briggs test. They're like, your personality type. I was like, you have a lot of energy, so you need to like go out, walk. That's why I still walk to this day. To like release it. I reacted in faith though. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of just taking a step one day at a time. A lot of times you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to quit. I'm going to walk away from God, or I'm scared, or I'm this. And it doesn't change the fact, like I felt a million emotions, but I didn't stop going to church and I didn't stop talking to God. So I was scary and I was uncertain every step of the way. I mean, there was so much, especially when my brother died, it felt like a joke.
Right. Yeah.
Like people are like, oh, God's laughing at me. You know, I had to wait 5 whole minutes. And I'm like, no, like it is impossible. I don't know. I've never met anyone that can, besides my sister, that can go, yeah, let's talk about this. Like, because I didn't backslide. I didn't walk away from God. I served him all. It was actually from my sister's death. Like that's when I started interning here. You know, so like I was all the more on ministry, you know, campaigning for God, and then this happened. So it felt like I was like, God, are you playing a joke on me? I'm like, so like it is very hard to find someone that knows how I feel. And then, but I tried anyway. So like now I'm like, I kind of reacted in faith, but that doesn't. I was on the outside, I was wasting away. Right. I was like, I am miserable. I am sad. Yeah. There's no more Christmas. There's no more holidays. It's all canceled. Like, you know, man, that first Christmas, that first New Year's, horrible, you guys. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Horrible. Yeah. You know, not to mention, you know, my mom was so sad. My dad was so sad. It was just sadness, you know? It was so uncertain and it was so scary. So to go, God works things out together for good. And I'm like, I know you are, but probably in like 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can make it another 30 years.
Right.
So whenever Pastor Johnny, hey, guess what? Your brother is gone too. I was like, all things work together for good.
Right.
You know, it was just like, okay. It was very cringy. That's how I reacted. I was like, I guess they do, you know, but I don't see the good.
Right.
So, but I did feel like I reacted in faith, even though it's not how anyone would think faith would look like. Yeah. Because I was like, I got up in the morning, I still came to internship, I still came to church, I still raised my hands. I was like, oh, I guess I had faith.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So
makes sense.
If you're going through certain things, never underestimate, you know, the power of just taking one day at a time.
Yeah. I feel like I reacted like that first time in high school. Obviously, I reacted probably the worst because I was angry at the people who chose to walk away from God, because I literally felt personally offended.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, you are walking away from me. Like, forget about God. You're walking away from being my friend. We joined Under Shepherds together. You're the one that put me in fine arts, your human video, like all that. And I'm like, you know, I'm not even the one that started this. Like, you guys brought me in the fold.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
and
so
like,
crazy. Yeah.
Now, you know, you're going to just like, now all of you are going to stay friends. And I'm getting, you know, ousted really just for following God.
Yeah.
So I do feel like if I could take it back, and I try to talk through this with like high schoolers, because I think in high school is when it happens for everyone, kind of.
Yeah.
And you make your decision. But I do wish I would have probably reacted more in faith of like having a burden for the people walking away. Because I even remember just like one of my friend's moms reaching out to me like, hey, you know, she could really use your friendship, whatever. But I was so upset that I was like, cool, love you, you know, Mrs. whatever, but like probably not. I think our time has come. Like we're over. So if I would have understood the whole like, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me, Samuel, that kind of thing, I think I would have. And even PJ kind of like got on me about it, and I was like, why do you care about souls so much? Because I guess he's a good pastor. But I do think at that point I reacted in anger. But then I guess the faith was just that like I didn't give up. Like it never occurred to me like, oh, I should also walk away from God. It just, you know, it was a weird season where I like just had to ask people if I could sit with them at lunch, you know, and it's FCA, so there's like 4 people there. So to have a new lunch spot when I'm just starting to be a senior, you know, like having to explain to my classmates why I need a new lunch spot. Like, it's just so embarrassing. And like, you know, going from like, it's like in the movies, like when like they show the same scene like in the different seasons, like fall, whatever. Like I remember like seeing that image of like all of us going to MainCast together, and then just like one by one them disappearing. And I remember specifically going to like Sunday morning after Xstream AM one day just by myself, and I remember like crying during fast set because I was like sitting in the pew alone, and I was like, is this always how it's gonna be? Because this is terrible. I think Jason saw me and he was like, are you okay, mama? And I was like, don't say it because I'm just gonna cry, whatever. But you know, I guess I reacted in faith towards God, but I definitely now react differently towards those who are, you know, running away from him, because I get that it actually has nothing to do with me. / I guess now it's an honor because I'm like, oh, you associate me so closely with God that if you're gonna walk away from him, you can't talk to me. So kind of good and bad, but like just to keep myself from feeling that personal, like you're abandoning me, because it's not that, you know.
How did you react?
I feel like I was angry at first too for my situation. Like, I don't know if I was angry at God, because I feel like my parents raised me well enough to like always know like God is in control. Yeah. And they always spoke that over my life. But I was just angry at first, and then that anger kind of turned into like not really doubting God, but doubting myself. And I guess I was doubting God, but I didn't know that I was doubting God. Like I was doubting that I could ever do what he promised that I would be doing. So that it was a season where I was just doubting. Nobody else probably would have known that I was, except for Sydney at the time. But she was like the one person that I kind of outsourced to and really spoke everything with. And she's been like the most encouraging person just in my corner just since day one, like encouraging who like I really am, and not hyping me up. She was that person in that season that kind of like redirected my attention towards God. And eventually it turned into like trusting God in a weird season. But for a long time, like really long time, I was just like doubting and almost just like giving up, because I was like,
that's so real. I mean, the Bible, it's funny you said that. I'm like, the Bible says be angry and sin not. So like there's room for anger. I mean, we wouldn't be normal or humans if we didn't get angry. That's just normal. But it's important how you channel your anger. Like talking to the right people and bringing it to Jesus. But if we don't, you know, that feeling is normal and it's good and you process it. But if you don't gear it to the right way, it could lead you towards a more doubtful path and more like shady path.
I think that anger, it really could have, because I was also in the season, what made it harder is like, it was in the season where my friends were getting opportunities.
Yeah, that's the worst.
and they were like just all across the globe, youth pastor, blah blah blah. I don't know. And I was like, that anger really could have like turned into bitterness and like jealousy.
Yeah.
If I had not had like time to share my feelings with God and to share it with someone who I could trust.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that like, and I feel like I have this conversation so often, and then even I have to have it myself sometimes. But like when you're angry, like it's just so hard to understand that you're in a defining moment, and it can be the moment that makes you or the moment that breaks you. And like I think we all give that advice, but then when we're in this situation, we're like, no, I'm just mad, and it's this person's fault, and I'm not gonna fast, and I'm not gonna do this, whatever. And I'm like, from the outside, I'm like, this is so clear though. Like this is just a test. It's just another season, another trial. Like, and you can do it. Like you can just choose to like make it the best thing that ever happened to you, you know, instead of the worst. And so it is awesome to have, you know, Sydney's a pretty good person, but to have that person in your corner who can speak wisdom into your life and not just hype you up like, yeah, you deserve all the jobs and whatever, and you're perfect. And you're like, no, I don't need to hear that.
She, like, never once would say that, like, you should be the youth pastor at this church, or you should, you know. She was like, okay, well, maybe God's trying to teach you something in this season. Like, you're just supposed to stay at this job and just serve and be humble during this time. And what you kind of said reminded me of something that I learned in one of my master's classes. The word conflict, like the Chinese word for the word conflict, is kind of, you know how Chinese words is like sometimes just like two symbols for one word. So conflict is danger and opportunity.
That's cool.
What kind of reminded me, like, anytime we're like going through something, like immediately I feel like we see the danger and like all the bad.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, there is an opportunity.
That's cool.
Yeah.
To look
I also
at.
want to ask Mingo if that's right, or if you're just making stuff up.
Mingo, let us
blame
know.
it on my professor
Give us
if
a
it's
thumbs
wrong.
up.
Mingo, turn off his mic right now if he's
I
lying.
I looked it up.
Oh, Mingo gave us
I
a
got
thumbs
a tattoo.
up.
Right here. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Look at
Okay.
that.
I forgot he was here too.
It's like, you said the
That
right
would have been
thing.
really awkward.
Imagine
if it
he said,
wasn't.
I would have
actually,
I would
no,
have just
it
saved
means-
it for after. I'd been like, oh, I can't
Yeah.
see his hand.
We'll add in the editing, just like, do not ignore. This is not, the mainstream does
False
not
information.
advocate this sentence. We do not mean to offend the Asian community.
That's cool.
Forgive
I want
us.
you to fact check me.
Fact check. What do we do when we can't see God or God's purpose in our situation?
I feel like we do what we know is right. Like, can't see God, okay, can't see his purpose, but like we have access to his word, we have access to John, you know, whatever, it's Joshua 1:8. Like we have the access, it's in the book, you know, like,
Even if I can't memorize it.
remember what you can do, remember what you do know, remember who you can rely on, you know, plug into cadences, plug into squads, fine arts, like just do something good, like, and avoid doing self-indulgent, bad, you know, avoid the dangers. And like the best thing we can do too is just know that there's an equal chance that we're going to go either way, and that we're not the exception. Like, we're not going to float through this season on a magic carpet and like not have to choose our path. Like, you're going to choose and then stick with what you can do with your strength at that moment. And let, you know, PJ always like talks about like, let the right heart follow right actions. Don't wait for your heart to be right to do the right thing, but the more you do the right thing, the more your heart will become right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say what we can do is just hold tight to God's promises, whether it's like personally what he's spoken to you in the secret place or his word. I feel like his promise for my life beyond being a youth pastor or being in full-time ministry was from the verse James 4:10, which says, humble yourselves before the Lord and he will exalt you and lift you up into places of honor. And so during that time where I was at this job and I was mindlessly going to and from work, our manager made us put like these boards up in the back room. And it was like you had to put like your goals or something. So people would put like pictures of like a Lamborghini, you know, because they're gonna get a Lamborghini from their T-Mobile.
From T-Mobile.
Check. Yeah.
What's up?
But I put this verse because I wanted to see it every single day and remind me like what I needed to be doing in this season.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can look back to every one of my hardest seasons, and there was like a verse that I just like kind of clung onto. I don't know if that's a word. And this was that verse in that season. Mingo? Is that a word?
Is this a word in Chinese?
Yeah,
Clung?
so I just kind of clung onto James 4:10 in this season, and I was like, you know what? The places that God could place me are way better than the places I could place myself anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be humble and be present where I'm at right now. And honestly, if you work like a secular job, like there's just as much, if not more, ministry opportunity there than like being like sometimes I wish that I didn't have to be around Christians 24/7 because I'm like, man, I kind of miss those moments at T-Mobile when I would have conversations with someone who was just at the club last night and has no idea about Jesus.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool.
Like be present where you're at, and there's an opportunity there.
Amen. Okay, so end of the story. How did that situation resolve itself, or how did it conclude, or where are you at with it now? ... / could you have seen that it would work out for your good, or did it work out for your good? Did God lie to you?
It worked out for my bad, and the Bible's a lie.
That is fact check.
Bingo. Yeah, I would say. I mean, I guess it hasn't, and I've just accepted that it won't resolve. Like as long as the only way it would resolve is if I walk away from God, right? Then I'm like, oh, me too. So I don't think I'm going to do that. But I mean, only by His grace, honestly. But I would just say that even though it hasn't resolved, and unfortunately, like the word just said, a lot of people are going to walk away. I do think like I've just learned a couple things that now can get me through those times. And so one of them is that, like, again, like I said before, like it has nothing to do with me. So I have to remember that, especially as a pastor, like now it's like my job to get people to heaven, you know, in a way. So I'm like, wow, I'm not just feeling as a Christian. I'm feeling like I should be fired, you know, or get like a salary decrease or something, like, because it's not working. But I have to realize, like, as long as I'm doing what God's calling me to do, there are people who are going to quit and run away from God. And I can't let that affect, you know, how I'm running. But also that God's not going to let it destroy me, because sometimes it does feel like, you know, just people who I never thought would walk away, you know, even just like celebrity people that like we look up to, and people that I'm like, we all started in ministry, and you were doing ministry over here, and I'm doing ministry in Orlando, whatever. And now like they don't know God anymore. And I'm just like, what? You know, and it feels like when you find someone in really similar situations and they walk away, it's just like, sometimes it can feel like, am I next? You know, like if we're like, you're struggling with the same thing as someone, or you're in the same exact season or job, whatever. And like, you kind of have to realize, okay, there has to have been something that I was doing in the secret place and something they were doing in the secret place. And now this is like the physical harvest of that is they're walking away and I'm not, versus when I was younger, I just kind of thought like everything, you know, that I saw was true, which that's just not. Like your prayer life matters, your convictions matter, what you do with your time matters, and that's stuff that people don't see. So even just like, I want people to feel encouraged, like if there's, you know, people walking away from God because of something that you also feel like you struggle with, it's not like you are, you know, being picked off one by one. Like people are choosing to walk away from God because of the decisions and things that they're doing in their secret place. And like, it's not like a luck of the draw. It's not a lottery system. It's not like, oh, you're next, the enemy's coming for you next, you know, like it's not any of that. Like if you're making the right choices in the secret place and doing the right things, like you're fine. You're not just another one bites the dust type of thing. Like you're going to be fine. You're going to make it. I also learned just like that lonely seasons are just seasons, you know, and they all have their purpose. But like, I've never been in a season of running the race alone that has lasted forever. Like God always brings the right people to run, even if that is just for that season, you know, running together for that season. And then maybe you're not close after that. Like that's completely okay. And then ultimately, like I realize I can choose how I want to see these moments. You know, I can be like, boo-hoo, I'm alone. Or I can be like, wow, I don't know how, but like by the grace of God, this many percentage of people have quit, walked away, and I haven't.
Yeah.
So like, you know, working together for my good, like I'm still here. I'm still in your will. I'm still under the umbrella of God's protection. And then I do think that like, I couldn't have seen it working out for my good because I just felt like I'm going to be alone forever in ministry, forever alone. And it's just, I'm going to be alone. But even in that, like that senior year of high school was tough, but like, that's when I became friends with Jessica Godier. Like, maid of honor at my wedding. She's at my house all the time. My, you know, son loves her the most out of everyone. Like, in my life for over a decade now. You know, every close friend I made that first year of internship after I graduated high school, in my wedding, still to this day, my closest friends. And I didn't ask for them. I didn't seek them out. I literally gave Jessica a ride home from Xstream one night because I realized she lived close to me. And that was like the beginning of this epic long friendship we've had, you know? And I've really seen God place everyone in my life who's supposed to be there. And I haven't had to work or beg or compromise to keep them.
Yeah, amen. That's good.
And so to me, I'm like, okay, good did come out of this, because if it was up to me, I would have chosen to stay friends with the people I was friends with. And like, God had to take them away from me. You know, even though I wouldn't have chosen. I wouldn't have had the wisdom or strength or willing heart to walk away from those friendships. So even though I'm like, this is the devil, I'm like, I don't think it was the devil. I think it was the Lord. And thank you. Thank you for your time. You know, he's a good.
No one can say that unless they've stuck it out for a decade. Walking a path and look back, and that's wisdom right there. But no one wants to spend the 10 years. They just want to give up at month one whenever they lose all their friends. But if you hang in there a decade later, you can look back and go, oh,
right.
That we don't.
And it's kind of an unpopular opinion, but now that it's been a decade, I'm like, that wasn't really that long. You know, I'm 27.
I've got a lot more life left to live.
Because you just keep your head down and you don't, you know.
The little Kaimana didn't know that. Like, you know, it's impossible. And it's impossible to explain or to, you know, you just got to trust the God that works all things out together for good. How about you? How did that situation resolve itself? Or has it?
So kind of the story from where I left off is, you know, I was still in Lakeland serving here. Knew that God was calling me to just stay plugged into Mainstream. It felt like it was supposed to be my home church and I was supposed to serve. So what I did was, after I kind of moved from the anger to the doubt, and now I was kind of like operating in just trusting God a little bit more, I decided to get an apartment pretty much in Orlando in Celebration. So leaving my job, moving to Celebration so that I could go to church and not have to drive 2 hours every time. But I didn't have like a job that would sustain like that apartment. I didn't have like any like real vision, but I knew like God was calling me to be at the church. So I took that step in faith. And then it was the week that Sydney and I got married, I got the job here as middle school pastor. But I don't want to say that as like that's the resolve, because I don't think that like the position was the resolve. That was like a promise that I held on to, that God told me. Like when I had the dream of becoming a full-time minister, I literally had a dream of speaking to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in risers.
That's crazy.
Like I can still visualize it. And I was like, that was like, you held on to that promise, God, like you're faithful. I don't feel like that was the resolve. I feel like the resolve was like being in a season where you can't see anything and like learning to still trust God now. Because I feel like that's what's going to be more sustaining. Because like God could give me a position and I could use it all for myself. Like God could give me a position and I could be the worst pastor ever. But what you can really take out of that is like the lesson of trusting God and being humble and being faithful.
And I don't think maybe you even knew too, like the clout that you were creating, and to use a really progressive word, I wish I had a different one. But just like in the ministry, you know, like you were serving at Rapids, like,
Yeah.
and not whatever, but like, you know, Sydney is kind of a royalty person here. Like, we're like, Sydney. So I think you could have come in with the attitude of like, yeah, you know, I'm like, it was Sydney, whatever.
That's
like
true.
that. And you didn't. It was just like,
did you know that she was
Sydney's
our first princess?
fiance? Yeah.
That she was our Princess Diana?
What do you mean?
When you started, see, the fact that he doesn't know,
She-
like Sydney is royalty around here.
Right.
Yeah.
Like every guy wanted to date her.
Oh,
She wouldn't give anyone the
I mean,
time of day.
Bye.
I see
She
why.
was like,
yeah, she's the best.
like,
Yeah.
but she was an under shepherd. She was an
Yeah.
H2O. She led
Yeah.
worship. She was like
so I
know.
mean, for real. So then
cream of the crop.
Yeah.
So
you
Yeah.
know, but then you came in like Rapids leader, like, is this Sydney's fiance? You know, and you kind of were just like, yep, I'm here, I'm leading, you
Yeah.
know, and it was just like, I think it was cool just for the congregation and everyone to see, like, you did, like, you just chose a humble path and you didn't use what you could have used to advance you, whatever. Like, it was 100% God.
Yeah.
And I think that even you've curried favor in that way in your new position because of that. Like, you're like, no, I served and that's how I got here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it made it like even more sweet because all of the past that I'm telling you, I applied like as everything leading up like that year when I was like just trying to like rush the promise.
yeah,
Man, I applied as like a school teacher to like thousands of like Christian schools.
My
You know,
gosh.
I applied at SEU. I applied to like FCA, not like the school here, but Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I was like, man, this is like almost what God wants me to do.
Yeah.
And I was
Right.
like, I just kept thinking of that verse, like, no, like God is gonna keep His promise, and He's gonna place me in that
Right.
Yeah.
in that place if I just stay humble in this season. And like when God places you somewhere, you know that it wasn't you,
Oh yeah.
and
the best.
it's the best because
Yes.
you're not like insecure in that position because you're like, God gave me this.
yeah,
He can, if anybody's gonna take it away, it's gonna be Him
Right.
or myself for not stewarding it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to be jealous of everyone else. You don't have to be insecure because people are better. People are always gonna
Yeah.
be better than
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It's true.
So yeah, it was really
and that's
cool.
right. You were a teacher,
Yeah.
like for like 1 week.
Yeah.
That
oh, yeah.
was
Then you,
like, to be honest, I really look back on that and God was like, okay, I'll give you this, but this is not what I wanted you to do.
right.
Like that was a month where I feel like I did rush the promise,
Yeah.
and like God taught me a lot there. But yeah, that's also, I say that to be like, if you do make the wrong decision, like God's not gonna like drop you in
Yeah.
the middle of it. Like
Yeah.
He's still gonna use that decision. Like if you rush the promise that he's given you, like He's not gonna be like, oh, no more
Yeah.
of
Right.
that person. Like
Right.
He could still like speak to you in that and take you out of it.
Yeah,
Amen.
man. As long as you stay open.
Yeah.
My situation, I'd resolve it. I would love to go, they rose from the dead. I don't know
Yeah.
how else. It's a weird, awkward situation. So where am I at now? It is hard. It's something that obviously all of us will have to face and deal with and process it in life because, you know, we will all die once.
Yeah.
So it's something, you know, you kind of learn how to deal with. If I could have them back, I would want them. Yes, I would give it all up, everything. Noah Wilson's water bottle, I would give it up. But at the same time, too, understanding that all things work together for good for whatever reason, it was their time, and you know, maybe they would have been hurt, maybe it would have been something, you know. So I have to be okay with them being gone. I do realize that we are all life is but a breath. We are all here for a moment, and we are all called to steward whatever it is that we've given us. So I had my brother and my sister for a season, and that season was gone because they're God's, they're not mine.
Right.
So that's how I value people, which most people don't value people. You think you do, but you don't really know how to do it. So I feel like I value people very differently than the majority of people I know. I think that I can accept God's will a little bit better than most of the people I know.
Yeah.
There is there's patience that I have. There's wisdom. There's all these like good spiritual things
Yeah.
that I've been able to have, and I know that I have because I see other people and I'm like, oh man, like you're falling apart because you broke a nail.
Right.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
You know, like it is pretty, it makes me value things a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And really accept God's timing. But in that, I've been able to stretch out my faith and seek, you know, and there's certain things that I have that majority of people don't have. Like there's certain, you know, opportunities being like lead youth pastor of MainStream. I'm pretty sure I have it because of the life that I've lived.
Yeah.
I know that other people, they don't have it because whenever the things got tough, they quit.
Yeah.
So I know that along the path, because I stayed faithful, I am here, and there's other people, maybe better people, that could be in this position or could have my life or could whatever, and they didn't because they gave up whenever things got tough. And you know, I didn't. Why is it that our good and God's good don't always look the same? I'm like, because we don't have an ounce of good.
Yeah.
Like we are evil. And I don't know. There's a peace that I have that most people don't have. There's an understanding I have that, and then nobody wants to pay the price for it. But trust me, like on this side of things, there's a stability. Oh man, that it's just so great that other people don't have. They're literally always. I always say I'm like this.
Yeah.
But I really am.
But you can be.
You know, and other people can tap into that. But most people are like, I hate God, I love God. I hate God, I love God. Like, always back and forth. And there's just no peace. And I'm like, oh my gosh, aren't you dizzy? Like, just be still. I'm like, but like, 100%. I know that I am an evil human being.
Right.
Like, my good is never, God's good is real good. Mine is fake. Right. So even in my best intentions, if it doesn't work out, I know then I was probably missing it. Like God's will is bigger than my will, and I need to trust that.
Yeah.
And I think that we get confused sometimes in that we're just like, but I want. I'm like, no, we're selfish. Yeah. You know, we always look at ourselves. You know, and I'm evolved enough to know that's like I am selfish. You know what I'm saying? Like that I'm not like I'm not. I've got it all figured out. I'm like, no, not at all. I have nothing figured out. You know, but I'm not walking away from God. I'm not doing that. That's the one thing that I know. I was like, no way. People are miserable.
Yeah.
You know, like I may have a sadder story, but I'm not miserable like you are.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, and I wouldn't trade that. I wouldn't trade that peace for anything.
Yeah.
Me either.
Definitely.
Romans 8:29, the verse that comes right after that, says, "For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. For those God foreknew, who also predestined. For those God foreknew, he also predestined." Does this verse shed any light on possibly why we go through bad things if God is working things out for our good?
I think it's right there to be conformed to the image of his Son. I mean, Jesus suffered a lot, you know, betrayal, embarrassment, canceled by everyone. And so if we're supposed to look like him, like we will suffer. And I would say a lot of us haven't suffered to the extent that he has, right? Like maybe martyrs who also gave their life could say that they had a similar suffering than him, but none of us have done that, you know, because we're still alive right now. But you just like the story you tell when you're like scrubbing the floors and you're like, God, when will I have to, you know, when can I stop doing this? And he's like, never, because this is when you look like me. So I think that especially like in a season of loneliness, I'm like, man, Jesus was lonely a lot, you know, and even him, like, he knows everything. So even in seasons where he was surrounded by his people, he knew like, you're not going to be there for me, you know, in the end, like you're going to dip out. You're going to lose faith. You're going to abandon me. And so there is, if you can choose to do the right thing and not give up, you will feel closer. Like, I feel like I am my nicest self when I'm going through something hard. Like I'm like my nicest. Like I'm so much more. I just like immediately like the switch turns on and I'm like, it's okay, Starbucks barista. I know, like there's only one of you here. Like I just all of a sudden I'm so understanding. Like when I'm going through a really hard day, a really hard week, I'm just all of a sudden I'm like super compassionate. You know, and I think it's because when we suffer, when we choose to not give up, then we are closer to Jesus than ever before. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. I think everyone's nicer when they fast. They're more irritable,
definitely,
but they're a little bit more
because you like
open
have
to
be,
things.
yeah, you're like, it's okay.
So like it's just funny. It's like I'm just like, I can tell you're fasting because you're so much open and you want to work. I feel like, I mean, they're sassier sometimes, and I'm like, calm down here,
whatever,
have an apple. But they're just a little bit more, like sensitive to their surroundings, just more like hippie like, and I'm just like, I love that.
I love it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I think just the concept of like good and bad intrigued me a lot when we were talking about this, and I just feel like our perspective of good and bad is just so flawed. Like, like you said, I mean, it just reminds me of like a parent's version of good compared to a child's version of what they think is good for them.
Yeah.
I feel like that's us with God. Like, we try to say what's good for us, but God knows what's the bigger perspective of what's actually good. Like, good doesn't equal easy and bad doesn't equal hard.
Right.
Like, that's true. That's what we present a lot of the times. But for God, like, the things that are good and bad for us, it's just all good to God.
Right.
Yeah.
For the people that love him.
Right.
Because like a horrible tragedy can lead you closer and make you more like Jesus.
Yeah.
Like the bad things and the good things all work together so we can be more like Jesus.
Yeah. And I think that, the older you get, like, and as you continue to grow in the Lord, the more you feel detached from this world.
Yeah.
And so like I talk to younger people or younger Christians who are like, I'm scared. I feel like I do love the world. Like, I don't want my parents to die. I don't want this like if that was to happen, I don't know what I would do. Like, the idea of heaven scares me, like all those things. But I'm like, as you suffer more in this world and you pay more of the price to follow God, you get older and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go to heaven. You're like, like everything this world can give me though, like it's not enough. So you start looking towards eternity and I think like Pastor Jim, Pastor Wade, like those pastors who've like done it for so long. And I'm like, they are, you can just look at them and be like, you are heavenly minded. Like, you couldn't give a rip about what this world could give you. You are a giant in the kingdom. Like, you're going to cash in one day on like mountains of treasures, in heaven, and you can see it. And like, again, you're not going to see it until you grow in the Lord for decades. And that's the ultimate reward.
It's funny because that sometimes the bad can lead you to Christ, and then sometimes the good can lead you to hell.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's 100%. The crazy part that
it's usually that
the good usually leads you to hell, which you're like,
that's
I'm
rich,
supposed
I'm
to
skinny.
I know. It's actually that people should be looking out for.
Yeah, so it's just it's crazy too, and I say this on like for whatever reason, like obviously my brother and sister, them being alive right now, would not be for my good. It would hurt me. It would keep me from doing my best. So like. And that's the truth. That's like, and I could say that
accept.
Confident. No, it's horrible to accept, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true because they're gone, and for whatever, and who knows? Like, I even get to like the annals of the kingdom, and I'm like, Jesus, like if they would have been alive, would I have backslidden? And God could go, yes.
Sheesh.
He's like, so I took them for you little crazy frizzy butt, like, and I would just go, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, but that's the reality. If they were here, it would hurt me. Yeah. If I had things that like, there's things that we demand, it would hurt me. It would keep me from being 100. It would keep Laura, my mom, like all the people. I'm just like, so like, I need to just trust that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole other level of just wisdom and understanding. And it's true. And who knows, like worse things worse. What if they would have died a different time? They would have ended up in hell. That's not okay either. Like, I know they were both saved. God,
Yeah.
So like, it's little things like that. What is the ultimate good that can happen to all of us?
We become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
And we're with Jesus.
Yeah. I think that we finished.
Yeah.
We finished
the race. Yeah.
I think the cool thing about like becoming more like Jesus, like and trusting God in the good and the bad is like it glorifies Jesus, but it also like blesses us when Jesus is glorified.
Yeah.
Like I think about like I'm big into sports, right? And so obviously when I'm cheering for my team, I'm glorifying the team, but there's something like joyful about cheering for your team and like being in that moment and glorifying your team. It's the same way like when we're glorifying God with our lives, like a lot of people from the outside looking in are like, you guys are just slaves to God, and like you're just giving him all the glory, and you're missing out for this life on yourself. But like, man, it's a blessing to glorify God. It's a blessing to bless Jesus.
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that until you take the step in doing that.
Right. Yeah. It's always like when you give advice, it's always like, I've seen the other side. Like, just trust me.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it. And, you try to get people to the other side. But I think one thing I learned too is like to stop apologizing for God on behalf of God or his word. Cause I'm like, it's kind of harsh. Like, God is a little wild, you know, like we don't understand him, but I'm not doing you any good by like trying to sugarcoat, or I don't know, maybe you can compromise, like just to make it not hurt as much. But I'm like, no, it is hard, but like just one more day, just go one more week, go one more month, and like you're gonna get to the other side and you're gonna see.
It's hard to explain that. It gets to the point that's like, when you do sacrifice, it is no sacrifice at all.
Right.
You're just like, that's why Christians were like, yes, let's do more. Right, yes, fine. Let's fast more. Let's give it. It's hard to explain because you won't feel that the first time you fast, or the first time you cut that relationship, or the first time you don't realize that you're like, yo, I want to run to God. What do you want?
I know.
Like you want to be like, it is a natural emotion because you're just like, you just realize, like everything that you have to give, it's not even compared to the glory that you get.
Yeah.
But that is a scripture, but it's a true sentiment once you've walked with God through all these seasons. It's not a big deal to say, yes, I will do more. Yes, I will do more at work. I will do more in life. I will do more for my spouse. Like the yes, the submission, it's not a problem.
Yeah. You're like, what am I giving up?
Yeah, you're just like, we're going to raise money for this. Okay. We're going to blah, blah, blah. We're all going to do this together. We're all going to make these bracelets. It's not hard to say yes. Yeah. And every time it's hard for you to say yes, that's when may the Holy Spirit convict you and be like, man, I need to deal with my flesh and being selfish and focusing on me and me thinking I'm the author and finisher of all good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like our yes should be very easy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it should get easier and easier and easier as time moves forward.
Right.
So that, because then we become more like him.
Yeah. Amen.
It reminds me of Philippians 3 when Paul was talking about considering everything as garbage compared to the infinite worth of knowing words. Jesus.
Garbage.
Yes. And it's like, I feel like that's what like sacrificing kind of leads to. It's like at first it is a sacrifice and you're like, man, I'm giving up gold. But then when you realize you're not really giving up gold, you're giving up garbage compared to like the gold that is in Jesus.
Yeah.
Then it's not a sacrifice.
That's a good name for a series, just calling it trash. And doing like
garbage.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just to like some sort of like the things that we have to let go of and sacrifice and give, and it's trash.
Put a trash can at the altar.
There we go. Throw it in there.
Throw your trash away.
Are there any other verses that you guys like to hold on to during tough times to give you hope and strength and peace and
yes,
Yep.
Psalm
Joshua
92. I'll say it from memory. Psalm 92 verses 12 to 14 says, "But the godly will flourish like palm trees and grow strong like the cedars of Lebanon, for they will be transplanted to the Lord's own house. They flourish in the courts of our God. Even in old age, they will still produce fruit. They will remain vital and green." And I'm just like, that is, I don't know, for lonely seasons when you're like, you're paying the cost for doing the right thing. I'm like, you feel weak. Like the whole, Paul says, or like struck down but not abandoned, hard pressed on all sides. We're outwardly wasting away. But I'm like, the true us, the spirit in us, is flourishing like palm trees. We're being transplanted to the Lord's house. And then even, whatever, we're just going through such an epic time in our church. Like even in old age, they'll produce fruit. Like, as Pastor Carl steps into like global pastor, I'm like, he's like at the top of his game. You know what I mean? Most people, I would say, end their seasons like that, or even just in the word, like they end on a low note. But I'm like, this, he's like at the height of his game, the height of his influence. That like he's going to explode in influence, like probably worldwide at that point for pastors and churches, like wisdom that he can give them, whatever. Yeah. And I'm just like, this is it. But like it took 35 years. Actually 45. 10 as youth pastor. We forget about that. 45 years serving at this church.
Longer than all our lives.
Right. Literally, I wasn't even my parents were little babies, it's just crazy. But then I'm like, but the Bible is true. We will still produce fruit decades from now, if we remain on the path. Yeah. And I love that because the word of God does not return void and he doesn't lie. So
yeah, that's good. I think it's literally just 2 verses later from what we were just reading in Romans 8:31. If God is for us, then who can be against us? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of along the same lines of just everything we've been talking about for this, but I feel like Paul talks about this a lot, kind of detaching from the physical world and like what we can see, and just trusting that like God is the most powerful being that there is, and if he is for you, like nothing can be against you at that moment. So
amen.
That's one that I cling to a lot.
Amen. Any final words before we
I would say
peace out?
Along lines of what Pastor Jake said, I would change my first answer if I had a more Jesus-y one to I wish everyone could see the spiritual realm. You know, like, because it's more real than the physical realm. It's not just as real, it's more real, but you don't see in it, and it manifests in the physical, but only after you've planted and you know, watered those seeds, good and bad. So it's like, you know, when people want to sin and mess up or live compromised lives and they don't get struck by lightning right away because we live under the dispensation of grace, it's like, oh, I've gotten away with it. Oh, well, it's probably not that bad. And then it is that bad because it will manifest in the physical. Eventually you walk away from God, versus you also can't always see the rewards of the good things you're sowing and the good things you're sowing, but one day it will manifest in the physical realm. So I just wish we could all have those eyes to just see like what we're planting, because I think we'd all make a lot different choices. So there's my godly answer to that, but I still want everyone to be on time and text back too.
I like it. I like that. The whole compromise thing is like hitting me a lot in like just this season. Yeah. Just like it's the little things.
Yeah.
So not
but
even
it is
like,
the little thing that it's hard to be like,
I didn't murder anyone. I know you didn't murder anyone, but those little things just kind of creep into your life. But no, that's a good one. So I pray everyone listening to right now, I pray that you will have a perspective of the spiritual realm.
Amen.
I knew a mom that would always pray for her when she would say goodnight to her kids. She's like, okay, I hope you dream about hell tonight. Good night. Sorry, we're Pentecostal
real
Spanish
one,
people.
She's the real one. Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm already praying that over
I pray
Zion
that
and stuff. I'm like, I don't want him to go to hell.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry. I am not white. Dream. I was like, no, one revelation, one whatever. So I hope that you do, that you feel the burning and the gnashing of teeth and that you don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there.
He's just like,
sometimes I'm scared I'm going to dream of hell, but I'm like, Lord, I'm not like, I don't even need to. Like, you can spare me the dream, like, because I don't want to go there, period.
Or the rapture, just any of those crazy things that's gonna like scare you like straight. Yes, I'm okay with that. I don't want to like, I don't want to go there. But anyways, may God open up your eyes. If you were inspired and blessed, go ahead and share this. Go ahead and subscribe too, because then we'll be able to notify you next week. That will be our final installation next week. The MainCast season 2 will be done. Yeah. And we'll be done with the season of prayer and fasting, and Tidal Wave will be coming up too. So don't forget, keep reading Romans, keep getting involved, keep fasting, keep off social media, and keep listening to the MainCast. See you next week.